Hey everybody, Coach here. Hey, thanks for taking a few minutes and spending some time with a little DIY landscape education from me, Coach. Hey, you know, it is true. There is an effect, a phenomenon, if you would, about having a well-designed, well-thought-out, and well-cared-for landscape. That's what we're talking about today, is that phenomenon that I have seen countless times. So let's get into it, shall we? This little peculiar weirdness that happens with those type of landscapes. Let's get rolling. Hey, I'm Matt. You can call me Coach. Every Friday I bring with me landscape DIY education, concepts and theories, ideas and solutions, so you guys can go out and tackle a landscape project yourself, get professional results, save a whole lot of money in the process, and in this day and age, be a lot more self-reliant. Man, after a 20-plus year career in the green industry, I'm bringing with me a lot of knowledge and experience that I want to share with you guys, the new, modern, educated, self-reliant homeowner of today. You know, the old saying goes, I wish I had $100 for every time I heard or every time I saw. Yeah, you know, you could make a good living at that. Well, in this case, this particular phenomenon is something that I have seen in the green industry. I'm guessing, you know, a couple thousand times easily, and it's a phenomenon that is kind of like the Jonesian syndrome, but not really. So let's move forward and let's explore this as I take you down this little rabbit hole that maybe you're already aware of and maybe you are not. I've seen this phenomenon both on the positive side and I've also seen it on the negative side. So let's take a couple examples. See if either one of them sound familiar to you. So let's take you to a nice warm spring morning somewhere in the neighborhood. And Mr. and Mrs. Smith are out walking their couple of pooches. And they go by their favorite house. The reason it's their favorite house is because whoever lives there just has it dialed in. Bulbs are pushing up through the ground. Some are blooming and some will be blooming. It's just one of those mornings. And that's when neighbors stop and say something similar to, "Your yard is so beautiful. I don't know what the trick is, but everybody wishes they had your yard." And so the conversation starts. You know, it's, oh, you know, we just tend it, we just do this, we just do that, and da-da-da-da-da, and the conversation ends, and the Smiths walk off. Then Joe Schmo is driving down the street, rounds the corner and sees the yard and just kind of, always seems to kind of slow down and take notice and take a look. Now, that's the positive side. Now the negative side. Down at the other end of the neighborhood, there's the house. And I've talked about that house, and I'll put a little mention of that right here for you to take a look at. There's that house down the block. The Smiths walk by that house all the time. And every time they do, there's never anybody out front. Doors are always closed, curtains are always closed, and when they do see somebody, there's not that conversation. There isn't that invitation by visual appeal to stop and say hi. Or if there is, it's the old guy head nod, you know, the old, and then they walk a few more feet and just shake their heads because it's that house. And this is that phenomenon that I've seen so many times in my career where nice houses just invite attention. And houses that are not as nice or not quite as maintained, they seem to be ignored. And you know what the real phenomenon on is? Sometimes the nicest freaking people, which I will show you as an example in just a minute, the nicest people in the world live there, but they're just kind of ignored. Now, I'm not talking about neighborhoods that are you know, hoity-toity, pinky extended, wrought iron gates. No, none of that. No, I'm talking your average blue-collar neighborhood. I really am. And I saw that quite a bit in my years of designing and construction. Now, on to the really fun part of this phenomenon. I had been hired many, many years ago by a young couple that had their first move-up house. Now, when I say move-up, I'm only talking about square footage because they had a growing family. And at this move-up, there was going to have to be some improvements done because they moved from one neighborhood to another neighborhood within the same town, but they bought that house. And for 2 years, my clients had lived there. Now, they got a pretty good deal on the house. You know, the family that used to live there, it was an inheritance thing, and they didn't want it, and they got it. So my clients got it for kind of a song. And then they started saving because they did have plans for this house, and this house was going to be in their world for at least a decade, if not more. So over a course of 2 years, they never heard from anybody. As a matter of fact, they couldn't even tell me their neighbor's name next door. And when people were out walking the dogs or riding the bikes, there was not much attention ever paid. Then one day I got a phone call from them. I went to their house and consulted with them. They had saved a substantial amount of money, and they said, how much is it going to cost to redo the front and the backyard? And how much are the design costs? And I explained to them, well, it all depends on your budget. And they said, well, we have a range. We have a range between X and X. I said, okay, well, let's split the difference and use the middle figure. And they said, fair enough. And so they hired me as the designer. And when I came back and presented, they said, do you have an estimate for us? And so I presented an estimate based on a couple of things, and I was hired on the spot. Well, we were about 6 weeks out at the time, and we came back, and on day one, when I showed up with me and 2 other guys, and we started in, it was like ants to honey. All of a sudden, there were more walkers, there were more dog people, there were more cars stopping and slowing down. Then by about the 3rd day, when demolition kind of got wrapped up, there were horn honks and the woo-hoos and the stops and the stares and the points. Now, my clients had never heard from anybody in this neighborhood. The job went on, and we were there for probably about 6 weeks, redoing the front and backyard. Pretty substantial job. When we got all done, they went from the outhouse to the penthouse as far as the yards went. All of a sudden, they had the nicest yard in the flipping neighborhood, and it was a pretty good sized neighborhood. And all of a sudden, towards the end of the job, I would arrive like 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 4 o'clock, I had handed out probably no less than a half a dozen business cards, and people were coming by as I was wrapping up for the day, and they were starting to talk to my clients. These people had never heard from one person, including their neighbor next door, who suddenly became a mainstay every single day, coming over with a cup of coffee and, hey, it was really, whoa, that's really looking good. And this is the positive side of the landscape phenomenon. How people who have something nice or something that's being improved will garner attention in a neighborhood, like I said, ants to honey. So when I got all done and my clients were happy, I ended up with probably 4 other jobs off of this one job in this neighborhood alone. And not only that, but in that neighborhood, a lot of my competition I saw was also in the neighborhood, and they were starting jobs. And it was all started by my clients who had that house and decided to modernize it. And within a 6-month period, I was the last of the improvement train. They had hired some gutter people, they had hired some roofing people, they hired some painters. And so they really threw a lot of investment dollars. And when I left, they had plans for a kitchen remodel and a bedroom knockout and a few other things. So, you know, they were really doing the whole 9 yards there. And all of a sudden, when I checked back with them, my usual 30-day check back, yep, it was, I don't know. I don't know what the words are, but suddenly they knew at least a dozen people in the neighborhood. They had had a neighborhood barbecue. They had been invited to places, and it was all because of this landscape improvement. So, take a look at your landscape. What does it say? What does it say to you? because the other side of this landscape phenomenon is inside your property lines. And what effect does it have on you and the people that you share the home with? What kind of example does it make? Like I said, my clients were the nicest people in the world, 2 great, well-mannered kids. But even they, I saw this honeymoon glow, shall we call it, with this new environment we're outside. The kids were more excited every single day when they were coming home from school and seeing what work had been done. So what does your landscape say? This is in no way, no how, a way to say that you're a lesser person because you don't have a real nice landscape. No, you know me. This is not what this channel is about. It's just a phenomenon. It's an experience sharing thing that I have seen and that I'd love for you to experience if you haven't already. And when you go outside, what effect does your yard, your outdoor living space, speak to you about? Does it say, please, John, do something. I don't care what it is, but do something. Or does it go, hey, good job, John. I really appreciate the efforts you put in last weekend. It will give you rewards, and in return, you will feel good about yourself. It's like when someone gets a brand new car on the block, and it's the fancy new model that everybody's heard about. Suddenly, you got people in your driveway going, oh, yeah, ooh, yeah, new car smell, I see. And you know, you take a couple neighbors out for a drive, and it's amazing to find out that within the next 90 days, there's 1 or 2 more new cars on the block. So in a way, I guess it's a Jonesian thing, but it's also what happens to people who inspire others to improve, to surround themselves with nicer things and things that are valuable. I mean, a brand new landscape in an older neighborhood is a valuable commodity. You're going to have a good return on your investment. As a matter of fact, I've seen at least 100, if not 125% return on your investment. Most of the time it averages about 80%. But, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder and value is in the eye of the buyer. So I wanted to bring this to you as a kickoff for 2022, for you to go out there before spring is here and sit there and, what is that thing speaking to me right now? Now, if you're way up north and you're covered in snow, all right, you know, you can't see everything, but you know what's there. And if you don't have a lot of snow and you got a mud pit, it's speaking to you, means you got a drainage issue, you know, so think about it just a little bit. As always, I am only an email away. If you have questions or you have concerns as far as what you could or should be doing, whatever it is. And this week, I'd like to say a special thanks and a shout out to a writer that emailed me in by the name of Chris. Chris really had some kind words and some inspiration and a really good time in my YouTube career. And Chris, I appreciate it if you are watching. Anyway, that's what I have. The landscape phenomenon, the effect of a beautiful landscape, both design and well cared for. Guys, I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to hit the website. Always got that 15-stepper there for you. And the book. I will catch you guys next week, every Friday. I will be over on the Wisdom app this weekend. I promise, most likely it's going to be Saturday. We are into some cold weather down here in the middle part of Arkansas in the US of A. We got temperatures highs in the 30s and lows in the middle teens coming our way. So Maestro and I are going to hunker down, do some editing, and figure out what's next after things start to warm up just a little bit. Guys, thanks for your attention. I will look forward to you next Friday. Take care, and always to your landscape success. Bye for now.